Hello, everyone. Welcome. See some people starting to trickle in here. This is From Fragmented to Fluid, Building a Unified Holistic Marketing Strategy in 2026. Thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar is going to cover how to build a unified holistic marketing strategy in 2026. Believe it or not, we only have 62 days left in the year, which, if you have felt like me, this year has really flown by. So that was a little bit mind-blowing to hear. But there's really no better time to start thinking about how you want to approach the next year than right now, which is why we're here today to talk about these things, get you really feeling prepped for the upcoming year. So I'm your presenter today. My name is Alana. I'm the Director of Digital Advertising here at Coalmarch. I oversee both our overall digital marketing or digital ad strategy and the team that's responsible for generating paid leads for our client base. I've been with Coalmarch for the better part of a decade at this point. So if you've attended a few of our webinars in the past, you may have seen me before, but if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for tuning in today. We've got a really action-packed session ahead of us, and I'm excited to go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the content. Feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat as you go, and we'll make sure we cover those at the end. So, of course, I'm here today to teach you about how to be more strategic with your marketing and set a really strong foundation to grow upon. But why might you be tuning in today? Could be a lot of different reasons, but a few things that come to mind. One, you may be feeling like you're doing sort of all of the right things with your marketing efforts, but you're not seeing the results that you would expect to see. You may realize you might be throwing money at scattered marketing efforts that either don't tell the story of your brand, maybe don't reach the right audience, or don't complement each other in a way that builds really strong brand recall for your business. We all know ad costs are rising, so many business owners are concerned with making sure they're not wasting their marketing dollars. You may be here today to figure out how to avoid that. And at the most basic level, you want to grow as a business, and you know that you need to be more strategic to get there, but you aren't sure exactly where to start, which is where I come in. Today, I'm going to teach you how to unify, maximize, and expand upon what you're already doing with your marketing. So if any of these reasons resonate with you, you are definitely in the right place, and I hope you'll walk away with some action items and important key takeaways for today. So here's a quick preview of what we're going to get into in this session. I'll kick it off by giving you some context for what challenges and trends we're seeing that may influence your marketing choices going into 2026. We're going to cover what holistic marketing actually means and how it relates to your business. I'll then give you a framework for implementing these concepts into your marketing, including some actionable tips and some examples. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with a list of high-level points you should be walking away with, as well as a really helpful checklist that will prep your business for a really successful upcoming busy season at the start of 2026. So before we get into what holistic marketing is and how to do it, it's important to set the stage and give you context for the current marketing environment. So I'm going to kick it off by giving you an idea of what's important to know going into the next year as technology and marketing are changing a lot more rapidly than we normally expect. So to say there's a lot going on in the marketing industry right now is quite an understatement. There's always an endless number of moving parts when it comes to marketing, but we're at a really pivotal moment in time where change is really fast, very constant, and it's very easy to fall behind if you're not being super intentional about it. We're up against a lot of challenges as advertisers and business owners alike. And while I could do probably an entire 3-hour separate session just on this, I really want to narrow it down to a few themes that you need to know the most as a business owner. So that includes the hottest topic of the year, how the rise of AI is impacting marketing, why the path for generating a lead is no longer linear, how consumer behavior is shifting, and then why value perception is more important than it ever has been. So the rise of AI is obviously one of the most influential factors in not only marketing, but in our society as a whole right now. So I want to spend a little extra time on this section. AI really hasn't even scratched the surface of being fully integrated into most people's lives at this point, but it is already changing so much how people search, choose, and communicate. First off, it's changing the very nature of the language that people use to search. That's one of the biggest things that we've seen lately. Users can be a lot more conversational in their searches, and they can be a lot more detailed in their searches when they're speaking with a chatbot compared to just searching on your basic Google page. So, as a user looking for home services, you no longer have to keep your searches as simple as something like pest control in my area. You can ask really specific, more detailed questions like who offers same day pest control in my area, or what lawn care companies offer senior discounts, more of that conversational type of search. So, to optimize for this, you want to make sure that your website content really represents your services well and includes as much detail as possible about what potential customers can expect. Aside from changing the way that users search, it's also changing the type of results that they see. AI search really puts an emphasis on who your brand is as well as who your ideal customer is. And when a user searches, the results that they get back are going to be very specific to what the platform already knows about them. It's going to differ so much person to person. So to optimize for this, you want to make sure you have a really strong value reflected in your website copy to increase your chances of showing up for those ideal customers that you want to reach. Part of the reason that we're talking about holistic, unified marketing strategies today is that they really carry a lot more weight in such an AI heavy world. Being consistent in your marketing messaging means that AI will represent your brand in a way that you want it to, ideally matching you with the right potential customers that have an interest in your values, in your service, et cetera, et cetera. If the way that you present your brand is disjointed across different sources and marketing channels, AI won't be able to tell exactly what to convey to users, which can end up misrepresenting your brand and cause you to reach the wrong audience or send the wrong message. From an advertiser perspective, AI helps automate a lot of the menial tasks like bidding and ad copy, but at the same time, it also removes a lot of control. So at the end of the day, the data that you're feeding the system, the way that your brand presents itself, and providing a lot of clarity in the value that you offer as a business matter a lot more than ever before. The second big trend in marketing right now that I want to cover pertains to the customer journey. So, from the point that a potential customer realizes they have a need for your service to the point that they contact you is not a straightforward or predictable process these days. With so many different ways to find your business and different generations of homeowners interacting with your business in different ways, customer journeys are now multi layered and they can be really messy. A multi layered customer journey requires a multi layered marketing strategy to keep up, which is what we'll cover through the rest of this presentation. I've put together a couple of examples just to kind of demonstrate what I mean by saying the customer journey isn't linear. It's kind of an abstract concept, but I'm hoping these examples will give you a better idea of what I mean by a multi layered customer journey and having multiple touch points. So in this first example, we're looking at how a customer in their early 30s might find your business. And this is just a hypothetical example, but let's imagine that their journey starts when they see a TikTok about summer pest prevention, which just starts getting them thinking about their need for pest control services in the first place. Next, they might Google best pest control near me and browse through companies in the local listings section, checking out reviews, but maybe not clicking on any of those websites right away. They're not in the mindset to purchase immediately. Days later, they're browsing Instagram, and because they have demonstrated that they're in the market for pest control by searching for it, your ad is shown to them. Subconsciously, they might recognize your branding from when they were browsing companies on the search engine results page and recall who you are. From there, they decide to visit your website, and your same-day service and involvement in the community really pique their interest. But before making a decision, they want to check with their spouse, who mentions that they've seen your truck in their neighborhood before. And so finally, before they book through your online scheduler, after reading through your Google reviews that highlight your really quick response time. So at that point, they will convert into a lead, they'll contact you, and you can sell them into a customer. So by the time that they've converted, they've interacted with your business through 5+ different marketing channels, which really highlights the need to be present in every possible channel that you can. That makes sense for your business. Another example with a different target audience illustrates how a journey can differ a lot based on different demographics. So in this example, the homeowner is in her late 60s. She's first introduced to your brand through a sign in a neighbor's lawn after their mosquito treatment. She starts thinking about how mosquitoes have been pretty bad in her yard lately, and she's looking for a solution. So she mentions it to the neighbor during a chat, who recommends your company for the great work that they did. Later, she searches your business name directly on Google just to double check your reviews and feel that peace of mind. She then calls your office to ask about senior discounts and gets a friendly, knowledgeable customer service rep. And making a decision in the moment, she goes ahead and books while she's on the phone. A few weeks later, she receives a postcard from you that reminds her to sign up for annual pest protection, which could potentially bring in additional revenue from this one customer that you might have already sold. So in this case, the lead journey happens mostly offline at the start, but there is a small digital aspect with her looking at the reviews. Digital is so prevalent still, but we can't neglect and forget to still nurture the offline aspects of marketing as well. So you'll understand after seeing those two examples that having your brand in multiple relevant areas really gives you a better chance of showing up in front of your ideal customer. And these really non-linear customer journeys, especially in example number 2, are great reminders that the journey involves a lot more than just your digital efforts. But don't worry, we're going to cover more of how to actually unify all of those different marketing channels, online and offline, as well as the customer experience later in the presentation when we go through the framework. The next theme in marketing as we go into 2026 is that consumer behavior is changing. What do we mean by that? The first aspect of this is that consumers are spending more consciously. They're putting more scrutiny on every dollar that they spend. Economic uncertainty in the US means that people are examining their household budgets a little more than they normally would. Proof is that spending isn't down overall, but people are trading down and they're looking for cheaper options when they're able to get similar value for a lower price. With the pest and lawn industries especially becoming more commodified, it's easier to price shop and harder for businesses to compete on price alone while staying profitable. The other aspects of changing consumer behavior is a trend of faster decision making. So we have, first of all, the on-the-go nature of mobile searches, which makes decision making easier and faster. And then there's also the fact that we live in a really fast-paced culture that also lends itself to quicker decision making. Because of this, brand visibility prior to when users make it to the point that they're searching on Google for pest control or lawn care is more important than ever. You want to capture their attention before you're placed in the search engine results page next to a bunch of very similar companies where it's harder to distinguish why they should choose you over others. There will always be a certain level of bias going into a search, whether it's conscious or not. So if they are already somewhat familiar with your brand through other areas that they've seen it, that familiarity could be what causes them to choose you over your competitors. I already mentioned that consumers are scrutinizing every dollar more and more and are likely to be trading down in price lately, but with the caveat that they're trading down if the value is the same for a lower price elsewhere. Value perception is everything, and the value for money really has to be there for consumers to stick with their current provider, especially in this current environment. If your services are premium price, you have to be able to justify and communicate the value to both your current customers and potential customers. Loyalty is really fragile if the customer experience feels really generic and easily replaceable. And there are plenty of well-known DIY companies and national chains out there that make competing on price more difficult than ever before. which just really emphasizes the need for the value to be in other areas and to also be really well displayed and communicated. So by now I've given you sort of some context to set the stage as to where we are in the marketing world right now, what we're up against, what's changing, what you can expect. So now we'll tie it together with holistic marketing. I've hinted at some of the ways that it plays into different shifts happening in marketing right now, but in this section I'll cover what holistic marketing actually is, what its benefits are, before we dive into how to actually apply it to your business specifically. So holistic marketing is really just a very fancy way of saying that all aspects of how your brand is presented are unified. So think of it as an ecosystem where all of these different aspects are working together to create a functional foundation for you to grow your business. And I mean all aspects, not just your digital marketing, digital aspects of what you're doing. Digital marketing is obviously our bread and butter, but we really emphasize and consider how all aspects of both marketing and business play off of each other. Nothing should really be looked at in a vacuum when it comes to your marketing and your brand as a whole. Every single piece of the way that you present your brand should really reinforce your value proposition. So that includes your digital marketing, everything from your SEO content to your website, your Google ads, Facebook ads, and everything in between, as well as your traditional marketing. So that could be billboards, direct mail, truck wraps or yard signs, even the way that you interact within your community. But like I mentioned, it goes beyond what you would consider to be intentional marketing efforts. It can also include touch points like how your CSRs greet customers on the phone, what the interaction looks like between your techs and customers in the home, how your automated texts read, what your reviews look like, and even more. Even if your ads are beautiful, your website looks great, one poor interaction can undo all of that credibility with a potential customer that may already be on the fence about choosing you over a competitor in the first place. And then conversely, a seamless, really friendly, fast customer experience just reinforces your marketing message in real life and breeds more of that customer loyalty. I want to acknowledge that unifying your marketing and maintaining consistency is a big time investment for the average business owner. It involves coordinating across different vendors, thinking really proactively, as well as staying agile to make adjustments, especially in an ever-changing marketing atmosphere. So even if you partner with a marketing company, there's still a lot of knowledge sharing and communication needed, which takes time. So what's in it for you? Are the benefits worth the time and the effort? Let's take a look at what unifying your marketing can do for your business. The first one is that smarter spend leads to a bigger impact and a stronger ROI. Holistic marketing ensures that every dollar works harder because campaigns are reinforcing each other instead of competing for attention. So when SEO, PPC, and branded campaigns share the same message, your ROI compounds instead of fragmenting. Second one, maintaining consistency across everywhere your brand appears builds trust with your audience and makes it easier for them to recall your brand and pick you out of a lineup when the time comes that they need your services and they're searching on Google. People buy from brands they recognize and trust, and a consistent marketing message and customer experience from start to finish builds familiarity and credibility for your business. Thinking back to those two examples that I shared about how two different homeowners and different demographics may interact with your brand, it really emphasizes the importance of making brands more visible in a sort of search everywhere world. Holistic marketing should expand your reach beyond just Google. It could be things like Facebook, Nextdoor, local directories, even your truck wraps or your lawn signs, and even AI-driven recommendations. As AI drives sort of that search everywhere world, having a really cohesive presence ensures that that AI and those algorithms understand who you are and when to recommend you, which expands your visibility, improves your ROI, and helps you reach those ideal customers. Next one, unified marketing allows your unique company values to really shine through all of the marketing noise that people experience on a daily basis. When your marketing and operations present a really unified front, your differentiators stand out amongst your competitors even more. It becomes easier for customers and for algorithms to understand what makes you different, highlight that, and turn that into results for you. Lastly, investing your time and effort into holistic marketing gives you more resilience in an ever changing market. A really strong, connected brand weathers economic shifts, AI changes, and trends in consumer behavior. Holistic marketing helps you adapt faster because your message and your data foundation is already unified to start. Almost as important as knowing the benefits of unifying your marketing through this holistic approach, it's important to also understand what continuing with a fragmented marketing strategy or lack of strategy costs you. For starters, inconsistencies in your messaging across your marketing can create a feeling of unreliability, and it may fracture the trust of prospective customers. Wasted budget is one of the most immediate risks, with fragmented campaigns not reaching the right customers or reinforcing the values and brand image that you want to convey. Next up, poor data leads to poor decision making. If your measurement methods are fragmented, you're not tracking success consistently across all of your platforms and channels, you can't see what's truly working, and it's harder to make smart decisions about where to invest more. When your campaigns are disconnected, each one is doing all of the work alone. They're not supporting each other and reinforcing your messaging. And because of this, you can expect lower ROI from each of those channels that are operating in a sort of silo. Lastly, if you're operating in a really crowded market, marketing that isn't unified will cost you more than people that are operating out of a less competitive market. If your brand voice and your visuals aren't consistent, customers can't easily remember or recognize you amongst the sea of competitors that they are looking at when they search for your services. And in this case, first impressions are everything. So now that we know what the benefits of holistic marketing are and what you risk when you don't unify your efforts, I want to go into what actually goes into creating a holistic marketing strategy. To explain it as concisely as possible, there are 5 pillars of marketing that I'm going to cover. We call these pillars, but in the simplest terms, these are really just different components that make up your holistic marketing strategy. So let's dive into each of these to really truly understand what role they play in your strategy, in your business, and how you can implement them. So the first aspect we're going to cover is performance marketing, which focuses on specific measurable outcomes that are important to your business. That could be things like sales, conversions, and customer engagement. It also involves analyzing performance data in order to optimize campaigns for the results that you want to achieve and quickly adjust when there are changes to the market, the competition, or demand. Having proper tracking in place, measuring the right events, and actually using that information to make decisions are key aspects of staying really agile and flexible in an industry that is constantly trying to throw you curveballs. So, what does this actually look like in action for you as a business owner, as a marketing person, whatever role you may be in? What does this actually look like? So it means setting clear, measurable goals that you're regularly reassessing and talking frequently with your vendors about them so they can help you achieve those goals through whatever efforts they are working on. Tracking all lead sources beyond just what your agency, or if Comarch is your agency, manages. This means making sure that if you're doing things like direct mail, if you have billboards, if you're sponsoring a local sports team, whatever it may be, stick a tracking number on it so you can measure whether those avenues are doing what you need them to do. Don't fly blind when you're spending money because you could be throwing money into things that aren't producing results for you, essentially. Measure key business metrics like your overall closing rate at the very least. That's sort of the bare minimum, but the more specific that you can get with measuring your internal business metrics, the more specific your strategy can be. So that could include things like retention and attrition rates, your cost per sale, whether that be overall or on a service by service basis, average customer value, and more. Make decisions based on data and not feelings. And at the same time, if you're going to hire a marketing company, make sure that they also do the same thing and operate under those same strategies. And lastly, be open minded and able to pivot really quickly, because that's ultimately what will help you keep ahead of the curve. The next pillar is internal marketing, which is how you operate as a business, how you serve your customers, and also how your employees present themselves to your customer base. So, internal marketing is all about treating your employees almost like your first audience, making sure that they really understand what your company stands for, what your brand message is, and that they feel equipped to represent it in the way that they interact with customers. So to implement this, you want to make sure, first of all, that your team knows the mission, the voice, the tone, and the values of your brand and is completely clear on it, that they feel involved in the company's success and the role that they play within that. So to do this, you'll need to train your team so they feel equipped to deliver on the brand experience that your marketing is promising. Make sure you're clear in what you expect and you set up your systems, whether it be your call scripts, your leave behind materials, everything in between, to support them in this mission. So what does that actually look like in action for you? This could be involving other members of your company in the relationship that you have with your marketing agency to add a different perspective and form sort of a bridge between leadership and your frontline folks that are talking directly to your customers. It also involves training your CSRs and technicians to deliver really consistent messaging and tone to what is conveyed in your marketing. You want to make sure that you're also communicating your marketing strategies, updates, and challenges to the rest of your organization so that they can factor them into their own day-to-day interactions. Don't keep them in the dark with those things. It can only benefit you to share that information. And then lastly, you should take time to review your About Us page on your website to gauge if it gives the right impression of who your company is, who your team is, who are the people behind the service. Next up is integrated marketing, which is when you align all of your marketing channels, your platforms, and messaging in order to present a really cohesive brand. We've talked about this quite a bit already, so I won't go too in depth with this one. You probably are kind of getting the point by now that you want to present a unified front. But what are some of the actions that you can take to actually put this into practice? First of all, when it comes to your budget, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. We talked about how you want to diversify in that sort of search everywhere marketing landscape. Again, going back to those examples of different homeowners finding you through different methods, you really want to diversify as much as possible, but also don't want to spread yourself too thin. Have a dedicated owner of marketing within your company to ensure consistency among different vendors that you work with and the strategies that those vendors own. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to hire an internal marketing person. Most small to medium businesses can't afford that. That's not possible. But what it does mean is giving one person that has really extensive knowledge of business operations and the business's goals the decision-making power and the ownership of that marketing relationship. Next one is to communicate your goals, strategies, and priorities across your different marketing groups. As someone that is sort of on the other side of things, all I can say is that it's never too much information. If you think there is something that your marketing team might need to know, but you're not sure if it's useful, it really can never hurt to share. As we've talked about so far, marketing is so all-encompassing, and it influences, every bit influences each other. So it's our job to think about how to actually put that information into use, turn it into a strategy. So all you need to focus on is just sharing that information when you remember to. And then lastly, share your marketing performance and efforts openly across different vendors. It can only benefit you if each of your vendors knows what's going on in the greater sphere of your business's marketing and can make adjustments to really unify that marketing despite working through different companies. Relationship marketing is similar in some ways to internal marketing, but with a focus on creating connections with your customers by really centering them in every action that you take and everything that you do. It's about building meaningful connections with your customers rather than just focusing on driving immediate short term sales. It's not just about attracting new customers, but also nurturing your existing ones. We know it's almost always more profitable for a business to retain an existing customer and keep them happy than spend the time and the money selling a new one. More often than not, the emphasis gets placed on attracting new customers. It is a very foundational part of growing your business. But I think at the same time, every business has a lot of opportunity to focus on that relationship building and relationship marketing more to help retain more of those existing customers. When it comes to building the relationships themselves, two-way communication is important, not just pushing your promotions, but listening to and engaging with your customers, whether that be through surveys, through social media. There's so many different ways to connect with your customer base. So some things that you can do. First step is to define your target customers based on market research and opportunity in your area. This will really help you focus your efforts on what will resonate with your ideal customer, and you can be a little more strategic with your spend as a result. Next is to understand who your current customers are in terms of demographics and behavior. Knowing who they are can help us as a marketing agency find similar customers and make sure that we are reaching the type of people that really resonate with your business. Understand current, past, and prospective customers' values and pain points by sending out surveys or reading through your reviews to see what they value and where they're having issues with your services. And then lastly, leverage this information to really inform your internal policies, the benefits of your services, and any features that you include, and improve how you interact with your customers daily with those things in mind. The last pillar is societal marketing, which is an aspect of marketing that I don't think we talk about as often as we should. Societal marketing really focuses on doing what's best, not just for your company and your customers, but for society as a whole, but used as a marketing tool. It's aligning your practices and messaging with broader ethical, environmental, and social standards to build brand equity, foster emotional connections to your business, and create a more authentic message that resonates with your target audience. With societal marketing, marketing becomes more meaningful than just sales, and this type of marketing ties in pretty heavily with relationship marketing that we just talked about. People love to feel like they are doing something good when they're making a purchase, especially a purchase that they already need to make either way. And the more that you can meet that need, the better you can foster those sort of warm and fuzzy feelings. An example that comes to mind for me is the vacuum company Bissell. They've centered their company purpose and messaging around pets, pet parents. I have a dog. They know that that's their target audience as a company that primarily makes vacuums. So because of this, they started their own foundation where part of their proceeds from each sale goes towards helping pets in need. This doesn't really sound like much, but for me, it is a differentiator and a reason why I continue to buy their products over the years. Their products and business are really not that different to me from other similarly priced products. So I might as well go with a company that aligns with my values and makes me feel like I'm sort of contributing to a bigger purpose. So some things that you can do to sort of put this into action for your business. If you're using environmentally friendly products or methods, make sure that your customers and prospective customers are aware of this. When you're doing something good, don't be afraid to shout it from the rooftops, put it on your website, put it in your ads, make sure it's as present as it can be. Provide education about the methods you use in both your marketing and your day-to-day operations. Find ways to get involved in your local community to build trust and show that greater purpose. This could look like your team maybe doing some group volunteering outings or your company sponsoring programs that help maybe more vulnerable groups in your area. And then lastly, provide informative and helpful content around community health and safety. So in the pest control lawn care world, that could be sharing tips to spot termite damage, how to keep rodents from causing house fires, or the dangers of having ticks and fleas in your yard. So by now we've covered a lot of practical ideas to help you put holistic marketing into action in your business. But before we wrap up, I want to sort of drive a few larger points home and give you a broader framework for unifying your marketing. Step one in this broader framework for unifying your marketing is connecting the dots and aligning all touch points around one centralized story. Everything from your website content to your lawn signs to your customer service reps should tell the same story and reflect the same values. Consistency is what turns marketing noise into brand clarity. And brand clarity means your target audience can really quickly understand who you are, what you care about, what you'll do for them, and ultimately convince them to choose you over competitors. So let's go through how to actually connect the dots and accomplish this. I will warn you ahead of time, a couple of these may seem repetitive. They're going to call back to some of those different pillars that we talked about. But just as I'm telling you to do with your marketing, I'm maintaining consistency, repetition here, so that when you leave this webinar, you walk away with a really strong idea of where to focus your energy. So first up, clarify your brand's story. We've touched on this a couple of times, but you want to determine what you want your business to be known for and make that your North Star, really guiding every aspect of your business and what you do. So consider asking a handful of people on your team what your company stands for. Are their answers the same? If they are, that's a really strong indicator that you already have a good grasp of brand clarity within your business. If the answers differ drastically, there's definitely some work to be done to carve out a vision that everyone can follow and get your team on board with it. Next up, review your visual identity. Make sure that the visuals that accompany your brand and values are consistent and that they convey the right message. So this is things like your logo, the colors that your brand uses, images that you use on your website and your ads, even as specific as the fonts that you use. The more consistent you can be, the more likely someone is able to mentally sort of connect the dots between different channels and recall your brand when it comes time that they search for your services. Try creating a brand board or a brand guidelines sheet that aligns visuals across different vendors. It's an easy way to ensure that even if you are working with different providers for different aspects of marketing, your branding feels cohesive. Next step is to unify your messaging. Once you have the visuals consistent across different vendors and channels, do the same with your messaging. So this can be as high level as coming up with a slogan for your brand, or it could be as nitty gritty as having a list of specific keywords that you don't want present anywhere in your content or your ads because they clash with the image or the values that you're trying to convey. Consider including this as part of that brand board that we just talked about to make your job a little bit easier when you're collaborating with different vendors and really strengthen those marketing outcomes by centralizing it in one specific place where it's very easy and very clear to see what you are trying to convey with your messaging. Next, review customer experience touch points. So this goes back to the internal marketing pillar. Do your calls with your sales reps, your email content, and your tech visits have a similar feel? Does that feel align with what you want to convey? If you're investing in call tracking, which you should be, kind of going back to that performance marketing pillar, having proper tracking in place, you should be able to listen to some of those phone calls to kind of gauge what the customer experience looks like, where you might have opportunities to improve. You can also read through your Google reviews or reviews on any other website to find opportunities for improvement and maybe even things that you want to highlight or reward your team for doing. Speaking of tracking, tightening your tracking and data goes back to the performance marketing pillar again, making decisions based on data, not feelings, and having reliable numbers you can trust when adjusting your strategy. A tip here, it may seem obvious, but track the actions that matter the most to your business, whether that's leads, sales, texts, all of the above, and review those results often. And then last one, going back to internal marketing, Align your team. A big part of this is getting their input and their buy-in. So if you're the owner, the CEO, or in general more on a leadership role and not in the day-to-day operations as much, you need to open the conversation with your frontline folks that you trust to give you really honest feedback. Be open to that feedback, ask for their ideas, and implement them when they make sense. Step 2 for implementing holistic marketing is to spend where it compounds. Spend your budget in a smarter way. Consider every aspect of your marketing and customer touch points as gears that work together to keep the whole thing running. You're adding more gears, you want to make sure that they all fit in with each other. The goal is to invest in connected, reinforcing efforts that work together rather than scattered tactics that work against each other to fight for attention. I want to take just a little quick detour to talk about how to balance short-term lead generation and long-term brand awareness. This is something that we talk about frequently, that we get asked about a lot. Of course, lead generation is an immediate need at all times to keep business growth moving forward and just keep you afloat on a month-to-month, week-to-week basis. At the same time, though, building a foundation for long-term growth requires investing in brand awareness, even if it's a little bit harder to measure and attribute leads directly to those brand awareness efforts. Results will rarely be immediate when it comes to brand awareness, but they will feed back into your short-term lead generation campaigns, which really give you the boost you need to get to the next level of growth for your business. So what does a good mix or balance look like? For starters, SEO and Google Ads help you dominate the search results and show up in front of potential customers that have an immediate need for your service and have demonstrated that need by searching. Paid social and retargeting ads help potential customers see your brand multiple times before they call. This can be especially impactful when reaching new audiences that may not have demonstrated a need for your services yet or aren't familiar with your brand. And lastly, reputation management and email provide the social proof that helps you close those deals from there. Isolated campaigns like one-off postcards, random things like that tend to waste your money and don't strengthen your message. You want to make sure that you or your marketing team is taking the time up front to be really intentional with marketing campaigns so that they can span multiple channels, reach the right people, and work seamlessly. Having that same messaging, imaging, values reflected across a wide variety of different channels, and do one big push rather than a lot of scattered efforts. Let's talk about budget for lead generation versus brand awareness and what that can look like. Now, I will say that this can definitely look different for every business depending on the size of the business, how aggressive your growth goals are, and what your brand awareness already looks like in your service area. So take this as a guideline, not a rule. It's not a hard and fast rule, but as a general guideline, aim to spend about 60 to 70% of your budget where you've historically seen reliable leads. This will create a really strong foundation for growth. And then from there, spending 20 to 30% in nurturing existing customers and generating brand awareness to bring in new ones will help you get to the next level. And then lastly, this isn't plausible for all businesses, but for our bigger guys, leave 10 to 20% for testing new channels and methods to reach audiences that you might not have tapped yet. Try out different things and see what works and what doesn't. Hopefully by now I've sold you on the idea of marketing across different channels and not putting all of your eggs in one basket. But if you do need more convincing, I want to point out that studies have shown that half of consumers use 3 to 5 different channels before making a decision. Additionally, cross-channel marketing campaigns generate 18.5% higher return on investment than single-channel ones. My recommendation is to plan sort of an overarching campaign that spans multiple platforms or marketing methods with consistent messaging, imagery, as well as tracking, very important. Let the different channels and methods act as modes of follow-up to each other to keep your business top of mind with prospective customers. Last step before we wrap up is to differentiate with unique value. Competing on price is becoming next to impossible if you want to stay profitable as a business these days. So competing on what unique value you can bring to the customer is the way to go. Things that might make you unique will definitely differ based on what your direct competitors are offering. So I'd recommend taking a look at competitor websites in your area if you're not already familiar with how they position your services, what their values are, what their benefits are, so that you can really establish or alter your unique value propositions based on what will actually stand out to customers in your area. So some ideas of what this could look like could be eco-friendly or child-safe treatments, customer education and transparency in service, fast response times if you do same-day service, local community involvement, or any charitable tie-ins. Again, make those differentiators sort of that North Star of your business. Let it drive every aspect of what you do and where you choose to invest your budget. Small businesses tend to understandably be a little more hesitant to potentially exclude certain audiences by leaning into really specific company values or benefits that might not apply to all homeowners in their area. But I'm a really firm believer that when it comes to marketing and really just life in general, if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So really lean into what makes you different. Don't be afraid of excluding some homeowners, knowing that you will have a much more loyal customer base and you'll find new customers by really leaning into and attaching yourself to the values that matter to you. Okay, we've gone through a lot of information today, but hang with me. We are wrapping up and then I will open it up to any questions that you guys have. So if you had to pick just a few key points that I want you to walk away with today, it's that, first of all, consistency builds trust and visibility with both prospective customers and existing customers. Unified efforts multiply your results when it's done right. Lead with value and lean into your unique differentiators. Do some research on what those might need to be. Really lean into that and make sure it's present in everything that you do. And then lastly, holistic marketing is a continuous process. If you complete any of the action items that we talked about today, I really encourage you to review them often, say at least twice a year if you can, but the more frequently you can, the better. We've gone over some action items today sort of throughout the presentation, but I don't want to leave you with scattered actions. I want to unify these actions in the same way that I'm talking about unifying your marketing. So our marketing team has put together a strategic marketing checklist that is meant to help prep your business across many different aspects, both digital and offline, to prep you for the busy season. So this comprehensive list includes proactive action items that tie in really heavily with the concepts that we've talked about today, but also expand upon it as well. The busy season definitely feels far away at this point, but I'd suggest getting started on this checklist now, because you may end up finding that you have more work ahead of you than you imagined, or you may find things that you need to request from your marketing company that take time. So the more time you have to do these things, the better quality and the more well thought out they'll be. If you want bonus points, consider using this checklist as sort of a quarterly self-audit tool to stay proactive instead of reactive. This is going to be sent out after the webinar if you registered, so keep an eye out for that. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reply to that email and we'll get back to you. So to put sort of a bow on everything, I want to leave you with the message that the businesses that will truly thrive in this upcoming year are the ones that have a really strong sense of who they are and are fully and consistently implementing those values and differentiators into every aspect of what they do. And that's it for today's webinar. That's it for the content for today, but feel free to stay after and ask questions if you like. I'll hang out for a little bit to answer any questions that you have. But thank you so much for joining me today. If you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll tackle them as they come up. If you have questions that pop up later in your head, feel free to respond to the follow-up email that you get after this or send something to my email, ayoung@colemarch.com, or our marketing email, marketing@colemarch.com. Thank you guys so much for joining today. Again, let me know if you have any questions. All right. looks like we don't have anything we need to cover today, but thank you all so much for joining. I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great Thursday, great Friday, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.